You know that moment when your entire world shifts? When something you've been ignoring suddenly becomes impossible to deny. My name is Diana, and this is the story of how my husband forgot our 15th wedding anniversary for the third year in a row, but somehow managed to remember hers. And when I say hers, I mean the woman who had been sleeping with my husband in my bed, eating at my table, and living a double life right under my nose. But here's the thing that's going to shock you. This story doesn't end the way you think. Because when I finally confronted the woman my husband was cheating with, neither of us expected what would happen next. And by the end of this, my husband would lose absolutely everything. Before I tell you how it all unraveled, let me ask you something. Where are you watching this from right now? Are you in New York, California, Texas? Maybe you're in the middle of the country in Kansas or Ohio. Drop your location in the comments and tell me, are you watching this while cooking dinner, on your commute, late at night when you can't sleep because something in your own relationship feels off? I ask because I need you to know you're not alone. Whether you're going through something similar or you've been through it or you're scared you might be, you're not crazy. Your instincts are real. And this story, it's for every single person who's ever felt like they were being gaslit, dismissed, or made to feel like they were imagining things. So get comfortable. Maybe grab some coffee or tea, because what I'm about to tell you is going to take us on a journey from a forgotten anniversary to a showdown that changed 3 lives forever. It was October 12th. I remember because it's the same date every year, the day Nathan and I got married 15 years ago in a small church in Atlanta, Georgia. I'd moved from there to Portland, Oregon after we got married for Nathan's job in tech. He was a software engineer at one of those companies that likes to pretend they're changing the world while paying their employees 6 figures to sit in beanbag chairs. I woke up that morning with that familiar flutter in my stomach. You know the one. That stupid, hopeful feeling that this year would be different, that this year Nathan would remember, that I wouldn't have to remind him, that I wouldn't have to drop hints, that our anniversary would actually mean something to him the way it still meant something to me. I'd stopped celebrating years ago. Year 13, I planned a whole dinner, made his favorite meal, slow-cooked pot roast with garlic mashed potatoes, the works, set the table with candles, put on the dress he once said made me look beautiful. He came home at 11 p.m., ate leftovers standing up at the counter, and went to bed without even noticing. When I asked him the next morning if he realized what day it had been, he looked at me like I'd asked him to recite the periodic table. Oh, God, Diana, I'm sorry. Work has been insane. You know how it is. Year 14, I didn't plan anything. I just waited to see if he'd remember on his own. He didn't. Not that day, not the day after, not even that week. It was like our wedding day had been completely erased from his memory. So year 15, this year, I woke up with 0 expectations. I'd learned my lesson. I got up, made my coffee, and went about my morning routine. I worked from home as a freelance graphic designer, so my commute was from the bedroom to the spare room we'd converted into my office. Nathan had already left for work by the time I woke up. He'd been leaving earlier and earlier lately, sometimes before sunrise. Big project, launch deadline, you know how it is. And I did know, or at least I thought I did, because that's what 15 years of marriage does. It teaches you to accept, to understand, to stop fighting battles you're never going to win, to let the small disappointments pile up until they're not small anymore, until they're a mountain you can't even see over. But here's what I didn't know that morning as I sat at my desk working on a logo design for a local coffee shop. My entire life was about to detonate. The doorbell rang at 2:47 p.m. I remember the exact time because I just finished a Zoom call with a client who'd spent 45 minutes explaining why she wanted her wellness brand to feel more organic without knowing what that actually meant. I was exhausted, annoyed, and ready for the day to be over. I walked downstairs and opened the door to find a delivery driver holding the most stunning bouquet of flowers I'd ever seen. Deep red roses, at least 3 dozen of them, mixed with white lilies and eucalyptus. The arrangement was massive, expensive, the kind of thing you see in movies or at celebrity weddings. My heart literally jumped. For one stupid, beautiful second, I thought, he remembered. The delivery guy smiled at me. Beautiful flowers for a beautiful lady. Someone must really love you. I felt my eyes getting hot with tears. "Thank you," I managed to whisper. He handed me the bouquet, tipped his cap, and walked back to his truck. I stood there in the doorway, holding this enormous arrangement, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Seen, remembered, loved. I carried the flowers inside, already planning where to put them, the dining room table maybe, or the kitchen island where I'd see them every morning. I was smiling, actually smiling for the first time in months. And then I saw the card. It was tucked into the roses, a small white envelope with a languid script on the front. I pulled it out, my hands shaking slightly, and opened it. The card read, "To my everything. Every day with you is a gift. Happy anniversary, my love. In." My heart swelled. He'd even signed it in, the way he used to when we first started dating, the way he hadn't signed anything in years. But then my eyes caught something that made my blood turn to ice. The name on the I stood there in my living room, holding flowers meant for another woman, and felt my entire body go numb. Vanessa? Who the hell was Vanessa? My first thought was that it was a mistake. The delivery driver had gotten the addresses mixed up. These flowers were supposed to go to someone else. Some other woman named Vanessa was waiting for her anniversary flowers right now while I stood here like an idiot holding them. But then I looked at the card again, really looked at it. It said, "Love in." Nathan's signature, his handwriting. I knew that handwriting. I'd seen it on 15 years of grocery lists, birthday cards for his mother, and exactly 3 anniversary cards he'd actually remembered to give me in our entire marriage. This wasn't a mistake. I set the bouquet down on the coffee table and pulled out my phone. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely unlock the screen. I called Nathan. It went straight to voicemail. "Nathan, call me back, now." I texted him, "We need to talk. Call me immediately." Nothing. I paced the living room for 20 minutes staring at those flowers like they were a bomb that might explode. My mind was racing through every possible explanation. Maybe Vanessa was a coworker. Maybe this was for a work thing. Maybe she was his boss and this was some corporate gifting situation I didn't understand. But even as I tried to rationalize it, I knew, deep in my gut, in that place where women always know but convince themselves they're paranoid, I knew. I picked up the envelope again and looked at the delivery label on the back. It had our address, 2847 Oak Street, Portland, Oregon, 97214. My address, my home. The flowers had been delivered exactly where they were supposed to be delivered, which meant Nathan had them sent here, to our house, with another woman's name on them, on our anniversary. That's when something broke inside me. Not my heart, that would come later. This was something else. This was the moment when every excuse I'd made for him, every time I'd told myself I was overreacting, every fight he'd convinced me I was being irrational, all of it shattered. I wasn't crazy. My instincts had been right all along. I went to our bedroom and opened Nathan's nightstand drawer. He kept his iPad in there, the one he used for reading before bed. I grabbed it and sat on the edge of our bed, the bed where we'd slept together for 15 years, and opened it. No password. He'd never had a password on his iPad because we don't keep secrets from each other. The irony wasn't lost on me. I opened his messages app, and that's when my world completely fell apart. There were hundreds, maybe thousands of messages to someone saved in his phone as V, just the letter V. I scrolled through them, my vision blurring with tears. Can't wait to see you tonight. Wear that thing I like. Last night was incredible. I can't stop thinking about you. She's working from home all day. Meet me at lunch? I wish I could wake up next to you every morning. She? He was talking about me. I was she. I wasn't even Diana anymore. I was just she, the obstacle, the inconvenience, the wife who was in the way. I kept scrolling. The messages went back months. No, years. At least 2 years of daily messages. Good morning texts, good night texts, photos of food, screenshots of funny memes, inside jokes I'd never be part of. And then I found the photos. Pictures of Nathan with a woman I'd never seen before. She was younger than me, maybe early 30s. Blonde hair, bright smile, the kind of effortlessly beautiful that made me want to throw up. They were at restaurants I recognized. Some of them were places Nathan had told me he was going for work dinners. Some were places he said he was meeting the guys. There was one photo of them in a park I'd asked Nathan to take me to dozens of times. It's too far, he'd always said, maybe next weekend. But there he was, on a picnic blanket, with her head on his shoulder, both of them grinning at the camera like they didn't have a care in the world. I found photos of them in hotel rooms, photos of them kissing, photos I'm not going to describe because this is my story, and some images you can't unsee, can't unfeel, can't ever forget. And then the worst one. A photo of them in our house, in our living room, on our couch, the one I was sitting on just an hour ago, thinking about where to put the flowers. She'd been here, in my home, the place I was supposed to feel safe. I couldn't breathe, literally could not catch my breath. I dropped the iPad and ran to the bathroom where I threw up everything I'd eaten that day. I knelt there on the cold tile floor, gripping the toilet, sobbing so hard my ribs hurt. How long had this been going on? How many times had he lied to me? How many times had he looked me in the eye and told me he loved me while texting another woman? How many times had she been in my house, sitting on my furniture, maybe even sleeping in my bed? I don't know how long I stayed there, long enough for my knees to go numb, long enough for my face to swell from crying, long enough for the sun to start setting outside the bathroom window. When I finally got up, I washed my face, looked myself in the mirror, and barely recognized the woman looking back. My eyes were red and puffy, my skin was blotchy, I looked destroyed. And then I got angry. Not sad, not heartbroken, those would come later. Right now I was furious, furious at Nathan for lying, furious at this woman, Vanessa, for knowingly being with a married man, furious at myself for being so stupid, so trusting, so willing to believe his excuses. I walked back into our bedroom, picked up the iPad, and started taking screenshots. Every message, every photo, every piece of evidence I could find. I sent them all to my email, then I sent them to my phone, then I uploaded them to a cloud storage account Nathan didn't have access to, because I knew what was coming. I knew he'd try to delete everything. I knew he'd try to gaslight me, tell me I was overreacting, convince me I was imagining things. But I had proof now, and I was going to use it. I looked through his messages again with purpose. I needed to know who she was, where she lived, how they met. And then I found it, a message from 3 days ago. Can't believe it's been 2 years this week. Best 2 years of my life. I love you, V. Her response, I love you too. Wish we didn't have to hide anymore. Wish you'd just tell her. 2 years? 2 years, while I was cooking his dinners and doing his laundry and sleeping next to him every night, he was in love with someone else. I kept searching until I found her full name in an old message forwarded her a document. Vanessa Montgomery. I opened Facebook on my phone and searched for her. There she was, same blonde hair, same bright smile. Her profile was public, filled with pictures of her perfect life. Her job title said Marketing Manager at Tech Vision Solutions. Tech Vision Solutions, Nathan's company. She worked with him. They saw each other every single day. While I was at home alone working in my spare room office, they were together, having lunch, having meetings, having an entire relationship. And then I saw something that made my stomach drop even further. Her relationship status. It's complicated. At least she had the decency to not list herself as single. Small mercies. I clicked through her photos, torturing myself, and found pictures of her at company events. There was Nathan in the background of several of them. And then, oh God, there was a photo from what looked like a company holiday party from last year. Nathan and Vanessa were standing next to each other, his hand on her waist. I'd asked Nathan about that party. He'd said spouses weren't invited, just employees, he'd told me. You'd be bored anyway. Every memory was poisoned now. Every moment we'd shared was contaminated by the question, was he thinking about her? Was he wishing he was with her instead? I looked at the clock, 6:17 p.m. Nathan would be home any minute with whatever excuse he'd prepared for why he couldn't answer his phone all afternoon. And I realized something. I wasn't ready to confront him yet. I needed more. I needed to know the full scope of this betrayal. I needed to know everything before I decided what to do next. So I did something I never. That night, Nathan came home at 8:30 p.m., late like always. He walked through the door with his laptop bag over his shoulder, looking tired and disheveled, and froze when he saw me sitting in the living room in the dark. "Diana, why are you sitting in the dark? And whose flowers are those?" I'd put the roses on the coffee table between us, a beautiful, expensive reminder of his betrayal, sitting right there in plain sight. "They were delivered today," I said, my voice eerily calm. "For our anniversary?" I watched his face. Watched the moment of confusion, then panic, then the desperate attempt to recover. "Oh my God, honey, I'm so sorry. I completely forgot. I've been so swamped with this project." "They're not for me." He stopped mid-sentence. "What?" "The flowers aren't for me, Nathan. They're for Vanessa. You had them delivered to our house with her name on the card." The color drained from his face. In 15 years of marriage, I'd never seen him look like that, completely and utterly caught. Diana, I can explain." "Don't." I stood up. "Don't you dare try to explain right now. I found your messages. I found the photos. I know about her. I know she works with you. I know you've been sleeping with her for 2 years. I know you brought her to our house." He reached for me. "Diana, please, don't touch me." I stepped back. "I'm going to bed, in the guest room. Don't follow me. Don't talk to me. Tomorrow, we're going to have a very long conversation, and you're going to tell me the complete truth for once in your miserable life. Do you understand?" He nodded, looking like a child who'd been caught stealing. I walked upstairs, locked myself in the guest room, and cried myself to sleep for the second time that day. But here's what Nathan didn't know. I wasn't planning to have that conversation. I was planning something else entirely. The next morning, I woke up before sunrise. I got dressed in jeans and a sweater, pulled my hair into a ponytail, and grabbed my car keys. Nathan was still asleep on the couch downstairs. I could hear him snoring as I crept past. I drove to a coffee shop 3 blocks from Tech Vision Solutions and set up camp at a table by the window with a clear view of the entrance. I'd looked up the company's typical work hours. Employees usually arrived between 8:30 and 9 a.m. I waited. At 8:47 a.m., I saw her, Vanessa Montgomery, in person, walking toward the building with a coffee cup in one hand and her phone in the other. She was even more beautiful in real life, effortlessly put together in a way that made me feel frumpy in my jeans and old sweater. I watched her disappear into the building, my heart pounding. What was I doing? Was I really going to confront my husband's mistress at her workplace? Was I going to cause a scene? Get myself arrested? No, I had a better plan. I waited another hour, during which Nathan called me 6 times and sent 17 text messages, all of which I ignored. Finally, at 9:52 a.m., Vanessa came back out, heading toward a nearby sandwich shop. I followed her. She ordered a turkey and avocado sandwich. I stood 3 people behind her in line, watching, waiting. When she got her food and headed toward a small table outside, I made my move. I bought a coffee I didn't want and walked straight to her table. "Vanessa Montgomery?" She looked up, confused. "Yes?" "Hi, I'm Diana, Nathan's wife." Her face went white. Her sandwich dropped from her hands onto the paper wrapper. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. "I think we need to talk," I said, and sat down across from her before she could protest. I don't know what. Please don't insult me by lying." My voice was steady, cold. "I found everything, the messages, the photos, the flowers he sent to my house with your name on them. I know you've been sleeping with my husband for 2 years. I know you work together. I know you've been in my home." Tears filled her eyes. "I'm so sorry. Are you dating anyone? I know it hasn't been that long, but you seem so happy, so settled. I wondered if there was someone new." I smiled. "There is someone new, but it's not what you think." "Oh?" She looked confused. "The someone new is me. I'm getting to know myself again, the person I was before Nathan, the person I could have been if I hadn't spent 15 years trying to be what he needed. I'm dating myself, and honestly, I'm pretty great company." Vanessa laughed, then hugged me. "You really are. I hope I'm half as strong as you when this is all behind me." "You already are, you just don't see it yet." After everyone left, I cleaned up alone, by choice. I put away chairs, threw away paper plates, collected wine glasses. I moved through my house, my space, feeling content in a way I'd never felt when Nathan lived here. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "I saw your party on Linda's social media. You looked happy, really happy. I'm glad. You deserve it. N." I stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it without responding. Nathan didn't get access to my happiness anymore. He didn't get to know what I was doing, thinking, or feeling. That door was closed. The next morning, I woke up to an email that changed everything. It was from a woman named Jennifer Brooks, a literary agent in New York. "Dear Diana, I found your story through a friend of a friend who heard about your divorce. I know this might seem invasive, but I think you have a story that thousands of women need to hear. Have you ever considered writing a book? I'd love to talk to you about the possibility. Please call me at your earliest convenience." A book? About my story? About surviving betrayal and discovering yourself on the other side? I called her that afternoon. "Diana, thank you for calling back so quickly. I hope I didn't overstep by reaching out." "Not at all. I'm just surprised. I'm a graphic designer, not a writer." "But you're a storyteller, and your story, about discovering your husband's affair, about teaming up with the other woman, about rebuilding your life, it's powerful. Women need to hear this. They need to know that life doesn't end when a marriage does, that betrayal doesn't define you." "I don't know if I can write a whole book." "You don't have to write it alone. We can work with a ghostwriter, or you can write it yourself with editorial support. But Diane..." I thought about all the messages I'd received since going public with my story. women thanking me for sharing my experience, women saying they recognize themselves in my story, women asking for advice on how to trust their instincts. Okay, I said, let's do it. Over the next 6 months, I wrote my book. Well, I talked, and a ghostwriter named Carol helped me shape my rambling thoughts into coherent chapters. It was therapeutic, revisiting everything that had happened. Painful, but therapeutic. The book was titled The Flowers That Changed Everything: Finding Yourself After Betrayal. It came out the following spring, almost 2 years after I'd received those roses meant for Vanessa. I didn't expect much, maybe a few sales to friends and family, maybe some local press. Instead, it became a bestseller. Women around the country, around the world, connected with my story. They saw themselves in my pain, in my awakening, in my transformation. I started getting invited to podcasts, to speak at events, to share my story with bigger and bigger audiences. The book tour took me to 15 cities. At every stop, women lined up to tell me their stories, stories of betrayal, of survival, of finding themselves again. In Chicago, a woman in her 60s told me, I stayed for 40 years. 40 years of knowing something was wrong, but convincing myself I was paranoid. Your book gave me the courage to finally leave. In Denver, a young woman in her 20s said, I caught my fiancé cheating 3 months before our wedding. Everyone told me to forgive him, that all men make mistakes. But your book taught me that I deserve better. I called off the wedding. In Seattle, a woman showed me the divorce papers she'd just filed, tears streaming down her face. Thank you for showing me that I'm not crazy. Thank you for teaching me to trust my instincts. Every story broke my heart and healed it at the same time. The book's success led to speaking engagements, to consulting work with divorce attorneys and therapists, to opportunities I'd never imagined. But more importantly, it led to a community. Thousands of women who'd survived similar betrayals, who were rebuilding their lives, who were learning to trust themselves again. We created an online support group. We shared resources. We lifted each other up on the hard days and celebrated victories on the good days. I'd gone from being Nathan's wife, a role that had defined me for 15 years, to being Diana, just Diana. And that was enough. We sat in that sandwich shop for 3 hours. Vanessa told me everything, and with every word, the picture of Nathan's double life became clearer and more devastating. She told me about the trips they'd taken together. The weekend he told me he was at a tech conference in San Francisco, he was actually in Napa with her. The nights he said he was working late, he was at her apartment. The lunch breaks that turned into afternoon hotel rooms. She told me about the time I'd had the flu last winter, so sick I could barely get out of bed, and Nathan had said he needed to go into the office to handle an emergency. He'd spent that entire day at Vanessa's place, binge-watching Netflix and ordering takeout. She told me about my birthday last year, my 40th birthday, when Nathan had gotten me a generic card and a gift certificate to a spa I'd never mentioned. That same week, he'd taken Vanessa to a concert she'd been dying to see and spent $300 on VIP seats. Every story was a fresh wound. Every memory she shared was another moment of my life that had been a lie. But then she told me something that changed everything. Diana, there's something else you need to know. Vanessa's voice dropped to almost a whisper. Nathan and I, we talked about having a future together. He showed me houses he wanted to buy for us. He talked about getting married. He even, she paused, tears streaming down her face. He even looked at engagement rings with me 3 months ago. My blood ran cold. He what? He told me he was finally ready to leave you, that he was going to tell you he wanted a divorce after the holidays. He said he wanted to do it right, wanted to wait until after Christmas so it wouldn't ruin your holidays. I laughed bitterly. How considerate of him. Vanessa reached across the table like she might touch my hand, then thought better of it. Diana, I need you to know I feel sick about this. I convinced myself that what we had was real, that he really loved me, that you were just an obstacle. But listening to myself talk about all of this, hearing how many times he lied to both of us, she broke down completely. I'm not proud of what I did. I can't believe I was stupid enough to be the other woman. You weren't stupid. You were lied to, just like me. Nathan is very good at making people believe what he wants them to believe. She looked at me with red, swollen eyes. What are you going to do? I thought about it for a long moment. My first instinct was to go home, throw all of Nathan's belongings out the window, change the locks and file for divorce, make a big scene, destroy him publicly. But then I realized something. Nathan had been carefully constructing this double life for 2 years. He'd been strategic, calculated, always covering his tracks. The flowers were his only mistake. One moment of carelessness in an otherwise perfectly executed deception. If I was going to expose him, I needed to be just as strategic, just as calculated. I suddenly said, I need you to keep seeing him. Vanessa's eyes widened. What? Don't tell him we met. Don't tell him you know that I know. Keep things exactly as they've been. Can you do that? I don't understand. Why would you want me to? Because I need time to plan. I need to protect myself financially, legally, emotionally, and I can't do that if Nathan knows I've discovered everything. The moment he knows I know, he'll start hiding money, talking to lawyers, spinning the narrative to make me look crazy. She nodded slowly, understanding dawning on her face. You want to catch him off guard. Exactly. I want documentation. I want evidence. I want every single person in his life to know exactly who he is and what he's done. Keep records of everything. Texts, emails, receipts. Anytime he tells you he's leaving me, get it in writing. Anytime he promises you something, save the evidence. When I'm ready to make my move, I'm going to need proof of everything. Not just the affair, but the lies, the manipulation, the financial deception. Vanessa was quiet for a moment, then nodded. Okay, I'll help you. It's the least I can do after. She gestured helplessly at the mess between us. Thank you. I stood up, suddenly exhausted. I need to go home and face him now. He's been calling me all morning. Diana? Vanessa called as I started to walk away. For what it's worth, he doesn't deserve you. I can see that now. You're stronger than I could ever be. I looked back at her, this woman who'd shared my husband's secrets, who'd been in my home, who'd been promised my future. We're both stronger than we think. We've survived Nathan this long, haven't we? I drove home in a daze. My phone had 23 missed calls from Nathan and so many text messages I'd stopped counting. The latest one read, Please, Diana, please just talk to me. Where are you? I'm worried sick. Worried sick. Right. The same man who'd spent 2 years lying to my face was suddenly concerned about my well-being. I pulled into our driveway to find Nathan's car there. He'd apparently taken the day off work. The front door opened before I could even get my keys out, and there he was, looking haggard and panicked. Diana, oh, thank God. Where have you been? I've been calling you for hours. I thought something had happened to you. I walked past him into the house without answering. Diana, please, we need to talk about this. I know you're angry and you have every right to be, but please just give me a chance to explain. I turned to face him in our living room, the same room where I'd received flowers meant for another woman just 24 hours ago. Okay, Nathan, explain. Tell me how you accidentally fell into a 2-year affair with your coworker. Tell me how you accidentally brought her into our home. Tell me how you accidentally forgot our anniversary while sending her flowers. Explain it all to me. He ran his hand through his hair, pacing. I don't know how it happened. It started as friendship and then it became more, and I didn't know how to stop it. I was weak. I made a terrible mistake. A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk. A mistake is double booking dinner plans. What you did was a choice. Thousands of choices, actually. Every time you texted her, every time you met her, every time you lied to me, those were all choices. You're right. You're absolutely right. But Diana, I love you. I've always loved you. This thing with Vanessa, it doesn't mean anything. It's not real like what we have. I laughed, and it sounded unhinged even to my own ears. You love me? You love me so much that you planned a future with her? You love me so much that you looked at engagement rings with her? His face went pale. She told you that? No, Nathan, I figured it out from reading your mind. I rolled my eyes. Of course she told me. I met with her this morning. We had a lovely chat about all the lies you've told both of us. He looked like he might throw up. You met with her? Why would you? Because I wanted to hear her side. Because I wanted to understand how you managed to fool both of us for so long. And you know what I learned? That you're an even better liar than I thought. That you've been telling her you're leaving me while telling me you love me. That you've been building a whole future with her while maintaining a whole present with me. Diana, please, I'll end it. I'll never see her again. I'll do whatever it takes to fix this. You can't fix this, Nathan. You broke 15 years of trust. You broke vows. You broke me. He fell to his knees, actually fell to his knees in front of me. Please don't leave me. I'll go to therapy. I'll change jobs. I'll do anything. Just please don't leave me. I looked down at this man I'd spent half my life with, begging on our living room floor, and felt nothing. No love, no hate, just a vast, echoing emptiness where my marriage used to be. Get up, Nathan. You look pathetic. He stood up, wiping tears from his face. What do you want me to do? Right now, nothing. I need time to think, to figure out what I want. You're going to sleep in the guest room, you're going to give me space, and you're going to wait while I decide what happens next. Okay, yes, whatever you need. I started to walk toward the stairs, then stopped. Oh, and Nathan, don't even think about contacting Vanessa to coordinate your stories. I'll know, and if you do, any chance of us working this out, however slim that chance might be, will be completely gone. Do you understand? He nodded frantically. I understand. I won't. I promise. I went upstairs, locked myself in our bedroom, and finally let myself break down completely. I cried for the marriage I'd lost, for the years I'd wasted, for the naive woman who believed her husband when he said he was working late. But I also started planning because Vanessa and I had made an alliance, and Nathan had no idea what was coming. Over the next 3 weeks, I became someone I didn't recognize. On the surface, I was the grieving wife going through the motions, trying to decide whether to forgive Nathan. I let him think I was considering reconciliation. I let him believe his desperate apologies and promises were working. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Vanessa and I were building a case. She continued seeing Nathan, documenting everything, every text he badmouthed me, every promise he made to their future, every lie he told her about what was happening at home. Diana's coming around, he'd texted Vanessa a week after our confrontation. I think I can convince her to stay. Just need a few more months, then I'll tell her it's not working and leave. Be patient, baby. Vanessa sent me that screenshot at 11 p.m. I was lying in bed next to Nathan, who'd kissed my forehead and told me he loved me just an hour ago. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake him awake and show him the message, but I didn't. I saved the screenshot and added it to my growing folder of evidence. During the day, while Nathan was at work, I met with a divorce attorney named Sarah Chen, the best in Portland according to online.
You have an incredibly strong case, Sarah said, reviewing the documents spread across her desk. The evidence of infidelity is overwhelming. In Oregon, we're a no-fault divorce state, so the affair won't impact the divorce decree itself, but it will absolutely matter in how assets are divided, especially if you can prove he spent marital funds on the affair. He did, I said. Hotels, restaurants, gifts. I've been going through our credit card statements. He spent at least $30,000 in the past 2 years on her. Sarah nodded approvingly. Keep documenting that. Every receipt, every charge. We'll need to show a pattern of financial deception. Have you thought about what you want out of this divorce? Everything, I said without hesitation. He can have his clothes and his car. I want the house, the savings, my fair share of his 401k, and if possible, spousal support. Given that he's been the primary breadwinner and you've supported his career by maintaining flexibility in yours, and given the evidence of his affair, I think we have a strong case for spousal support. How long have you been married? 15 years. That works in your favor. In Oregon, spousal support is typically awarded when marriages have lasted 10 years or more, especially when there's a significant income disparity. What does he make? $185,000 a year. I make about $45,000 from freelancing. Sarah made notes. Good. And the house, is it in both your names? Yes. We bought it 7 years ago. We've built up decent equity, probably around $150,000. Excellent. I think we can build a very strong case. But Diana, I need to ask, are you sure you want to go through with this? Once we file, there's no going back. I thought about Nathan's text to Vanessa, about how he was playing me, buying time, planning his exit while making me believe he wanted to save our marriage. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Then let's destroy him. I spent those 3 weeks preparing in other ways, too. I opened a bank account Nathan didn't know about and started transferring small amounts of money from our joint account, never enough to be noticeable, but enough to build a cushion for myself. I made copies of every important document, tax returns, mortgage papers, bank statements, investment accounts. I reached out to Nathan's mother, Linda, and invited her to lunch. We'd always gotten along well, and I knew she'd be devastated by the news of her son's affair. Over salads at a restaurant downtown, I told her everything. I showed her the messages, the photos, the evidence of Nathan's double life. She cried harder than I did. I raised him better than this, she kept saying. I thought I raised him better than this. You did, I assured her. This isn't your fault. This is Nathan's choice. What are you going to do? She asked, daubing at her eyes with a napkin. I'm going to divorce him. I wanted you to hear it from me first, before Nathan has a chance to spin the story his way. Linda reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You're a good woman, Diana. Too good for my son, apparently. Whatever you need, character statements for your lawyer, testimony about your marriage, anything, I'll provide it. Thank you, I said, genuinely touched. That means more to me than you know. And Diana, when this is all over, you're still my daughter. Divorce papers don't change that. I cried then for the first time in days, because in trying to destroy Nathan, I hadn't realized I might lose his family. Having Linda's support meant everything. I also reached out to 3 of Nathan's closest friends, guys he'd known since college. I didn't tell them everything, but I planted seeds. Hey, I'm worried about Nathan, I'd say. He's been working such late hours lately. Is everything okay at work? They'd assure me everything was fine, that Nathan was just stressed about a project. I found a receipt from a restaurant we never went to together. Do you know if the company does client dinners there? One friend would check with Nathan, creating a paper trail of my concerns. I was building a narrative, the worried, trusting wife who'd been trying to understand her husband's strange behavior, who'd been ignored and dismissed when she raised concerns. When the truth came out, no one would be able to say I was blindsided. They'd see that I'd been trying to piece it together all along. But my most important ally was still Vanessa. We met weekly at a coffee shop halfway between our neighborhoods. Our relationship was strange. We weren't friends exactly, but we were united in our goal. She'd gone from being Nathan's mistress to being my co-conspirator, and the transformation was remarkable. He asked me to go to Hawaii with him next month. He said he was going to tell you it's a work conference. Did you say yes? I told him I needed to think about it. Diana, I feel sick lying to him like this. Doesn't that make me just as bad as he is? No, I said firmly. You're not lying to hurt someone. You're helping reveal the truth. There's a difference. She nodded, but she still looked miserable. I can't believe I let it get this far. I can't believe I was okay with being the other woman. You were manipulated. He told you exactly what you needed to hear to keep you around. That's what Nathan does. He finds your weakness and exploits it. What was your weakness? She asked quietly. I thought about it for a long moment. I believed that love was enough, that if I just loved him hard enough, patient enough, understanding enough, eventually he'd appreciate me. I confused being accommodating with being loved. Do you still love him? No, I answered, and realized it was true. I don't think I do anymore. I love the idea of who I thought he was, but that person never existed. Nathan has always been this selfish, calculating person. I just refuse to see it. 3 weeks after finding those flowers, I had everything I needed. Bank records proving Nathan had spent marital funds on his affair, text messages showing he was planning to leave me while pretending to reconcile, photos of him and Vanessa together, testimony from his own mother about the stay of our marriage. I sat in Sarah Chen's office and reviewed the divorce papers she'd drawn up. This is comprehensive, Sarah said. You're asking for the house, half of all bank accounts and retirement funds, spousal support of $3,000 a month for 5 years, and he's responsible for all marital debts. You're also requesting he reimburse you for the approximately $30,000 he spent on the affair. Will I get all of that? Probably not all of it, but we're starting high so we have room to negotiate. The evidence you've gathered makes this a very strong case. He'd be smart to settle rather than go to trial. What if he doesn't settle? Sarah smiled grimly. Then we go to trial and air every piece of dirty laundry in front of a judge. The photos, the messages, the financial.
When do we file? That's up to you. I have everything ready to go. I just need your signature and we can file tomorrow. I thought about Nathan at home, believing he'd successfully convinced me to give him another chance, thinking he'd bought himself a few more months of having both me and Vanessa planning his exit on his timeline. File tomorrow, I said, but I want to be the one to serve him the papers. Sarah raised an eyebrow. That's unusual. Typically, we have a process server handle that. I know, but I want to see his face. I want him to know that I wasn't fooled, that every apology he gave me, every tear he cried, every promise he made, I knew it was bullshit. All right, then. Come by tomorrow at 10 a.m. The papers will be ready. I left Sarah's office feeling lighter than I had in weeks. The plan was in motion. Everything was in place. Now I just had to wait for tomorrow. I picked up the divorce papers at 10 a.m. the next morning, a Thursday in early November.
The envelope felt heavy in my hands, not from the weight of the papers themselves, but from the weight of what they represented. The end of 15 years, the end of a life I'd built, the end of being Diana Miller, Nathan's wife. I drove home with the envelope on my passenger seat, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it. Nathan would be at work. He'd been going in early lately, probably spending more time with Vanessa now that he thought I was starting to forgive him. I pulled into our driveway and sat in my car for a moment, staring at our house. It was a beautiful house, a craftsman-style home with a wide front porch and a garden I'd spent years cultivating. I'd painted the shutters blue. I'd chosen every piece of furniture inside. I'd made it a home. And Nathan had filled it with lies. I took the envelope inside and set it on the kitchen counter. Then I sent Nathan a text. "Can you come home for lunch? I think I'm ready to move forward." His response came back almost immediately. "Really? Yes, I can leave now. Be there in 30 minutes. I love you so much, Diana." I read that message and felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just a cold, calm clarity. I made myself a cup of coffee and waited. 28 minutes later, Nathan's car pulled into the driveway. He practically ran to the front door, bursting in with flowers in his hand. Cheap grocery store flowers this time, nothing like the elaborate arrangement he'd sent to Vanessa. "Diana," he said, breathless and smiling, "I'm so glad you texted. I've been hoping you'd want to talk about fixing things. I know it's going to take time, but I'm willing to do whatever." "Sit down, Nathan." Something in my voice made him stop. The smile faded from his face. "What's wrong?" "I said sit down." He sat at the kitchen table, setting the flowers down carefully. I could see his hands shaking. I picked up the envelope and walked over to him. "I want you to know something before I give this to you. I want you to know that I spent the last 3 weeks giving you every opportunity to be honest with me. Every time you looked me in the eye and told me you loved me, that you wanted to save our marriage, that Vanessa meant nothing, I knew you were lying. I knew because Vanessa and I have been in contact this entire time." His face went white. "What?" "That's right. Your girlfriend and I, we've been working together. She's been showing me every text you sent her, every promise you made, every time you told her to be patient while you were telling me you wanted to fix things." "Diana, I can explain." "No." I slapped the envelope down on the table in front of him. "You can't. There's no explanation that makes this better. You've been playing both of us, Nathan. You thought you were so smart, so clever." He opened the envelope with trembling hands. I watched his eyes scan the first page of the divorce petition. "You're divorcing me?" he whispered. "Did you think I'd actually take you back? Did you really believe I'd be stupid enough to forgive you after everything you've done? But you said you've been acting like you wanted to work things out." "I lied, just like you've been lying to me for 2 years. How does it feel, Nathan? How does it feel to believe someone loves you only to find out they've been planning to leave you the whole time?" He looked up at me, and for the first time since I'd met him, I saw genuine fear in his eyes. "Diana, please, don't do this. We can still fix this. I'll end things with Vanessa right now. I'll prove to you." "You already ended things with Vanessa. She broke up with you an hour ago. Check your phone." He pulled out his phone, his hands shaking so badly he could barely unlock it. I watched his face as he read Vanessa's message, a message we'd crafted the night before. "Nathan, I can't do this anymore. Diana and I have been talking, and I finally see what you really are. You're a liar and a manipulator, and I was stupid enough to believe you. Don't contact me again. We're done." You... Nathan looked up at me, tears streaming down his face. You turned her against me. I didn't have to turn her against you. I just had to show her the truth. Show her that you were lying to both of us. Show her that you were never going to leave me, that you were just stringing her along. That's not true. I love her. Really? Then why did you tell me you'd never see her again? Why did you spend the last 3 weeks swearing to me she meant nothing? You can't love both of us. That's not how love works. He put his head in his hands, sobbing. What do you want from me? I want you to sign the divorce papers. I want you to agree to my terms, and I want you to move out of this house by the end of the week. He looked up at me in horror. The end of the week? Diana, this is my house too. Actually, if you read the petition, you'll see that I'm asking for the house, and given that you spent $30,000 of our marital funds on your affair, yes, I've documented every hotel, every dinner, every gift. I think I have a pretty good case. You can't just kick me out. I can, and I am. You can stay with your mother, or get a hotel, or move in with Vanessa. Oh, wait, she doesn't want you either. I guess you're on your own. Diana, please. He reached for my hand, but I stepped back. Please don't do this. I'll do anything. I'll give you anything you want. Just don't end our marriage. You ended our marriage the first time you texted her, the first time you met her for coffee, the first time you brought her into our home. You've been ending it slowly for 2 years, Nathan. I'm just making it official. I love you, he sobbed. I know I messed up, but I love you. Doesn't that count for something? I looked at this man who'd been my husband, my partner, my best friend for 15 years. This man who'd promised to love and cherish me in sickness and health, for better or worse. This man who'd broken every vow, betrayed every trust, told every lie. No, I said quietly, it doesn't count for anything. Because you don't know what love is, Nathan. Love isn't lying. Love isn't betraying. Love isn't making someone feel crazy for questioning behavior that their instincts are telling them is wrong. You don't love me. You never did. You loved what I did for you. You loved having a wife at home who cooked your meals and did your laundry and asked no questions while you built a whole other life behind my back. That's not fair. Nothing about this is fair. It wasn't fair that I spent 15 years being the perfect wife while you spent 2 years being the perfect liar. It wasn't fair that I found out about your affair because you accidentally sent flowers to our house instead of hers. It wasn't fair that I had to meet with your mistress to get the truth because you certainly weren't going to give it to me. I walked to the front door and opened it. You need to leave now. Go back to work. Go wherever you want, but you can't be here. This is my house now. You gave up any right to be here when you brought her here. Nathan stood up slowly, the divorce papers still clutched in his hand. He looked around the kitchen, at the table where we'd eaten thousands of meals, at the coffee maker we'd bought together on our 3rd anniversary, at the magnets on the refrigerator from vacations we'd taken. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry. I believe you're sorry. I just don't think it matters anymore. He walked past me, out the door, and stood on the porch for a moment, looking back. Diana, is there any chance? Goodbye, Nathan. I closed the door in his face. Then I walked to the kitchen, sat down at the table where I'd just destroyed my marriage, and cried harder than I'd ever cried in my entire life. But these tears were different. They weren't tears of heartbreak or betrayal. They were tears of relief. The next few weeks were a blur of legal proceedings, paperwork, and phone calls. Nathan contested the divorce terms, of course. Sarah had predicted he would. He didn't want to give up the house. He didn't want to pay spousal support. He definitely didn't want to reimburse me for the money he'd spent on Vanessa. "We can fight him in court," Sarah told me during one of our mini meetings. "We have overwhelming evidence, but it's gonna get messy. Are you prepared for that?" I've been living in messy for 2 years without knowing it. At least now the mess is out in the open. Nathan tried everything. He called me constantly. I blocked his number. He showed up at the house. I called the police and got a restraining order. He sent me emails begging for another chance. I forwarded them to Sarah as evidence of harassment. He tried to turn our mutual friends against me, telling them I'd blindsided him, that I'd overreacted, that it was just a mistake. But I'd been smart. I'd already talked to most of them. I'd already shown them the evidence. When Nathan tried to paint himself as the victim, our friends knew better. His friend Marcus called me one night, apologetic. "Diana, I just want you to know Nathan's been lying to all of us. He told us things were great between you two. He never mentioned Vanessa. If we'd known what was really going on, we would have said something." I know. Nathan's very good at compartmentalizing his life. He told everyone exactly what they needed to hear to keep his secrets safe. For what it's worth, we're on your side. What he did was inexcusable. That conversation happened over and over, with friends, with Nathan's family, with coworkers who'd heard rumors. The narrative Nathan tried to create, that I was the unreasonable, vengeful ex-wife, never took hold because too many people knew the truth. But the most unexpected support came from Vanessa. We continued meeting for coffee even after everything was out in the open. Our relationship had evolved from allies and revenge to something resembling genuine friendship. "I still can't believe I was stupid enough to be the other woman," she said one afternoon, stirring her latte absently. "You weren't stupid. You were manipulated by someone who's very, very good at manipulation." "Do you hate me?" she asked suddenly. "For being with him? For coming to your house?" I thought about it carefully. I did at first, but now, no, I don't hate you. You were lied to just like me. The only difference is I was lied to for 15 years and you were lied to for 2. I keep thinking about all the signs I ignored, the fact that he could never introduce me to his friends, the way he'd panic if we suggested we go somewhere public in Portland, the excuses about why we couldn't spend holidays together. I knew something was wrong, but I wanted to believe him so badly that I convinced myself it was normal. That's what he counts on. He counts on people wanting to believe him. He's charming and convincing, and he knows exactly what to say to make you feel like you're the crazy one for questioning him. Are you going to be okay? Financially, I mean. Can you afford the house on your own? The divorce settlement will help, and I've actually been getting more freelance work than I can handle. I think word got around about what happened, and people want to support me. Plus, Nathan's mother offered to help if I need it. His mother is still talking to you? Apparently, Nathan tried to move back home, and she told him no, said she didn't raise a cheater, and she wasn't going to enable his behavior. Well, even his own mother doesn't want him, Vanessa laughed bitterly. He made his choices. Now he gets to live with the consequences. What I didn't tell Vanessa was that Nathan had been fired from Tech Vision Solutions 3 weeks after I served him with divorce papers. Apparently, having an affair with a coworker violated the company's ethics policy. When HR got wind of the situation, I may have anonymously sent them some documentation. They launched an investigation. Nathan tried to claim it was consensual, that Vanessa had pursued him, that he'd done nothing wrong. But Vanessa, to her credit, told them the truth. that Nathan had been her supervisor, that he'd used his position to initiate the relationship, that there'd been a power dynamic she felt uncomfortable with but felt unable to challenge. Tech Vision gave him two options: resign or be terminated for cause. He resigned. Last I heard, he was working at a much smaller company for half his previous salary. He'd moved into a one-bedroom apartment in the worst part of town. He was driving a 10-year-old Honda because he'd had to sell his BMW to pay legal fees. Everything he'd built, his reputation, his career, his financial stability had crumbled, all because he'd gotten careless with a bouquet of flowers. The divorce was finalized in January, 3 months after I served him with papers. I got the house, 50% of our savings and retirement accounts, and $2,500 a month in spousal support for 3 years. Not as much as I'd asked for, but enough to give me breathing room while I rebuilt my life. Nathan also had to reimburse me $15,000 of the $30,000 he'd spent on the affair. Again, not as much as I'd wanted, but Sarah said it was a win that he had to pay anything at all. The day the divorce was finalized, I went home to our house, my house now, and walked through every room. I'd already started redecorating, erasing all traces of Nathan. New paint colors, new furniture, new artwork on the walls. The bedroom where we'd slept together for 15 years was now a soft sage green, with new bed, new bedding, new everything. The living room where I discovered his betrayal was bright and airy, filled with plants and natural light. I was making this space my own, making it a home again, instead of a museum of broken promises. I thought about sending Nathan a message, something petty and vindicating, rubbing his face in everything he'd lost. But I didn't, because the truth was, I didn't think about Nathan much anymore. The man who'd consumed 15 years of my life became a stranger, a cautionary tale, a lesson learned the hard way. I was 40 years old, divorced, starting over.
6 months after the divorce was finalized, I was sitting in my newly renovated kitchen working on a branding project for a local nonprofit when my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Diana?" The voice was familiar but strained. "It's Nathan." I hadn't heard his voice since the day I'd closed the door in his face. Every communication since then had been through lawyers. "What do you want, Nathan?" I needed to hear your voice, to talk to you." "We have nothing to talk about. The divorce is final. We're done." I know we're done. But Diana, I need you to know that I'm sorry. Really, truly sorry. Not sorry I got caught. Sorry for what I did. Sorry for how I treated you. Sorry for taking you for granted for so many years." I was quiet for a long moment. "Why are you calling me, Nathan?" "Because I lost everything. My job, my home, my friends, my family. Everyone knows what I did and everyone judges me for it. And the worst part is, they're right to judge me. I was a terrible husband. I threw away the best thing in my life because I was selfish and stupid, and I thought I could have everything. I'm not going to feel sorry for you. I don't want you to. I just want you to know that you were right about me, about everything. I didn't know what love was. I didn't appreciate what I had. And now that it's all gone, I finally see what I lost. You didn't lose me, Nathan. You threw me away. There's a difference." He was crying now. I could hear it in his voice. "I know. God, I know. I'm not calling to ask you to take me back. I know I destroyed any chance of that. I'm calling because I needed you to know that you deserved better than me. You deserved someone who would remember your anniversary, someone who would come home to you every night and mean it,
someone who would look at you the way you deserve to be looked at. Why are you telling me this now? Because I'm in therapy, real therapy, not just the court-mandated counseling. And my therapist asked me who I owed amends to, and your name was first on the list. So I'm calling to make amends, not to make myself feel better, but because you deserve to hear it. I walked to the window and looked out at my garden. I'd planted new flowers last month, bright, hopeful colors that caught the afternoon sun. I appreciate that, Nathan, I do, but I need you to understand something. I've moved on. I'm not sitting around waiting for your apology. I'm not hoping you'll realize what you lost and come back. I'm building a life that doesn't include you, and honestly, I'm happier than I've been in years. That's good, he said quietly. That's really good. You deserve to be happy. I do. And for what it's worth, I hope you figure your life out. I hope you learn from this. I hope you never do to another woman what you did to me. I won't. I can't. I can't even imagine being with anyone else right now. All I can think about is how badly I screwed up. Then use that. Use it to become a better person. Not for me, not for Vanessa, but for yourself. Can I ask you something? What? Do you ever miss me, even a little? I thought about lying, about being kind, but Nathan deserved the truth. No, I said simply. I miss the idea of having a partner. I miss having someone to share my life with, but I don't miss you, Nathan. The person I thought I married never existed, so I'm not mourning the loss of you. I'm mourning the loss of who I thought you were. He was silent for a long time. Thank you for being honest. It's more than you ever gave me. I know. I'm sorry. For everything. Goodbye, Nathan. Goodbye, Diana. I hung up and set my phone down on the counter. I waited to feel something. Sadness, anger, regret. But all I felt was relief. Relief that I'd gotten out. Relief that I'd stood up for myself. Relief that I was on the other side of the worst period of my life. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Vanessa. Coffee tomorrow? Her text read. Absolutely, I typed back. Vanessa and I had become genuine friends in the months since the divorce. She was still dealing with the fallout from the affair, the judgment from coworkers, the reputation as the other woman, the guilt that lingered even though she'd been manipulated. But she was rebuilding, too. She transferred to Tech Vision's Seattle office for a fresh start. She was in therapy. She was learning to forgive herself. We met the next day at our usual coffee shop, and she looked different, lighter somehow, like she'd shed a weight she'd been carrying. You look good, I told her. I feel good, for the first time in years, actually. I started dating someone new. Nothing serious yet, but he's kind and honest, and he doesn't have a secret wife hidden somewhere. I laughed. That's a pretty low bar. After Nathan, any bar is an improvement. We talked for an hour about our lives, our plans, our hopes for the future. It was strange, bonding with the woman who'd slept with my husband, but our shared experience had created a connection neither of us expected. As I drove home that afternoon, I thought about how much my life had changed in less than a year. Last October, I'd been a woman who'd forgotten her own worth, a woman who'd accepted emotional neglect as normal, a woman who'd convinced herself that love meant accommodating, compromising, shrinking herself to fit into someone else's life. Now, I was a woman who knew her value, who wouldn't settle, who'd rather be alone than be with someone who made her feel alone. I pulled into my driveway and sat in my car for a moment, looking at my house. My beautiful,
A year after finding those flowers, I threw myself a party. Not a divorce party, though several friends had suggested it. Not a new beginning party. Just a party.
a celebration of being alive, being free, being me. I invited everyone who'd supported me through the divorce, my friends, Nathan's mother, Linda, my sister who'd flown in from Atlanta 3 times to hold me while I cried, my lawyer, Sarah, and yes, Vanessa. "Are you sure you want me there?" Vanessa had asked when I invited her. "Won't it be weird for the other guests?" "Probably," I admitted, "but I don't care. You're part of my story now, part of how I survived this. You deserve to celebrate with me." The party was small, about 20 people in my backyard, which I'd transformed into an outdoor oasis. String lights hung from the trees. A local caterer had provided amazing food. There was wine, laughter, and the kind of easy conversation that happens when people genuinely like each other. Linda pulled me aside at one point, tears in her eyes. "I'm so proud of you. Look at what you've built. Look at how you've turned something so painful into something beautiful." "I couldn't have done it without you," I told her honestly. "Having you in my corner meant everything." "You're still my daughter," she said firmly. "Nathan's poor choices don't change that. In fact, I see you more clearly now than I did before, and I like what I see so much better." As the party wound down and guests started leaving, Vanessa approached me. "Thank you for inviting me, for including me in your life after everything that happened. I don't know many people who would do that." "We survived something terrible together," I said. "That creates a bond, even if it's an unconventional one." "Can I ask you something? And you can totally tell me it's none of your business." "Go ahead." "Are you dating anyone? I know it hasn't been that long, but you seem so happy, so settled. I wondered if there was someone new." I smiled. "There is someone new, but it's not what you think." "Oh?" She looked confused. "The someone new is me. I'm getting to know myself again, the person I was before Nathan, the person I could have been if I hadn't spent 15 years trying to be what he needed. I'm dating myself, and honestly, I'm pretty great company." Vanessa laughed, then hugged me. "You really are. I hope I'm half as strong as you when this is all behind me." "You already are. You just don't see it yet." After everyone left, I cleaned up alone, by choice. I put away chairs, threw away paper plates, collected wine glasses. I moved through my house, my space, feeling content in a way I never felt when Nathan lived here. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "I saw your party on Linda's social media. You looked happy, really happy. I'm glad. You deserve it. N." I stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it without responding. Nathan didn't get access to my happiness anymore. He didn't get to know what I was doing, thinking, feeling. That door was closed. The next morning, I woke up to an email that changed everything. It was from a woman named Jennifer Brooks, a literary agent in New York. "Dear Diana, I found your story through a friend of a friend who heard about your divorce. I know this might seem invasive, but I think you have a story that thousands of women need to hear. Have you ever considered writing a book? I'd love to talk to you about the possibility. Please call me at your earliest convenience." A book about my story, about surviving betrayal and discovering yourself on the other side? I called her that afternoon. "Diana, thank you for calling back so quickly." Her voice was warm, professional. "I hope I didn't overstep by reaching out." "Not at all. I'm just surprised. I'm a graphic designer, not a writer." "But you're a storyteller, and your story about discovering your husband's affair, about teaming up with the other woman, about rebuilding your life, it's powerful. Women need to hear this. They need to know that life doesn't end when a marriage does, that betrayal doesn't define you." "I don't know if I can write a whole book." "You don't have to write it alone. We can work with a ghostwriter, or you can write it yourself with editorial support. But Diana, I really believe this book could help people. It could change lives."
I thought about all the messages I'd received since going public with my story. Women thanking me for sharing my experience. Women saying they recognize themselves in my story. Women asking for advice on how to trust their.
Over the next 6 months, I wrote my book. Well, I talked, and a ghostwriter named Carol helped me shape my rambling thoughts into coherent chapters. It was therapeutic, revisiting everything that had happened. Painful, but therapeutic. The book was titled The Flowers That Changed Everything: Finding Yourself After Betrayal. It came out the following spring, almost 2 years after I'd received those roses meant for Vanessa. I didn't expect much, maybe a few sales to friends and family, maybe some local press. Instead, it became a bestseller. Women around the country, around the world, connected with my story. They saw themselves in my pain, in my awakening, in my transformation. I started getting invited to podcasts, to speak at events, to share my story with bigger and bigger audiences. The book tour took me to 15 cities. At every stop, women lined up to tell me their stories, stories of betrayal, of survival, of finding themselves again. In Chicago, a woman in her 60s told me, I stayed for 40 years, 40 years of knowing something was wrong, but convincing myself I was paranoid. Your book gave me the courage to finally leave. In Denver, a young woman in her 20s said, I caught my fiancé cheating 3 months before our wedding. Everyone told me to forgive him, that all men make mistakes. But your book taught me that I deserve better. I called off the wedding. In Seattle, a woman showed me the divorce papers she just filed, tears streaming down her face. Thank you for showing me that I'm not crazy. Thank you for teaching me to trust my instincts. Every story broke my heart and healed it at the same time. The book's success led to speaking engagements, to consulting work with divorce attorneys and therapists, to opportunities I'd never imagined. But more importantly, it led to a community. Thousands of women who'd survived similar betrayals, who were rebuilding their lives, who were learning to trust themselves again. We created an online support group. We shared resources. We lifted each other up on the hard days and celebrated victories on the good days. I'd gone from being Nathan's wife, a role that had defined me for 15 years, to being Diana. Just Diana. And that was enough. 2.5 years after those flowers arrived at my door, I was living a life I'd never imagined. My book was on bestseller lists. I was traveling the country, speaking to thousands of women. I'd started a podcast called Trust Your Gut, where I interviewed other women who'd survived betrayal and rebuilt their lives. And then, on a random Tuesday afternoon in June, while I was at a coffee shop in downtown Portland working on the outline for my second book, someone sat down at my table. Excuse me, are you Diana, the author? I looked up to see a man about my age, with kind eyes and an apologetic smile. I am, I said. And you are? David Chen. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just finished your book last week, and I had to tell you, it changed my life. I smiled. That's wonderful. Thank you for... No, you don't understand, he interrupted gently. I'm going through a divorce right now. My wife had an affair, and your book, it helped me understand that I'm not crazy for being hurt, that I deserve better, that this isn't the end of my story. We talked for 2 hours about betrayal, about healing, about the process of becoming yourself again after someone breaks you. He told me about his marriage, his pain, his journey toward acceptance. And somewhere in that conversation, I realized I was attracted to him, not because he was handsome, though he was, not because he was charming, though he definitely had a way with words, but because he was real, honest, vulnerable in a way Nathan never was. When he asked for my number, I hesitated for only a second before giving it to him. I should warn you, I said, as he was leaving. I'm not looking for anything serious. I'm still figuring out who I am as a single woman. That's perfect, he said, with that kind smile, because I'm still figuring out who I am as a single man. Maybe we can figure it out together. He called me 3 days later. We went on our first date the following weekend, and for the first time in years, I felt something I'd forgotten was possible. Hope. Not hope that he'd complete me or fix me or make me whole, but hope that I could share my life with someone without losing myself in the process. We took it slow, no rushing, no pressure, just two broken. So here we are, 3 years after those flowers arrived at my door with the wrong name on them. I'm sitting in the home that's completely mine now, working on my second book. David and I have been together for 6 months, and it's the healthiest relationship I've ever had. We communicate, we're honest, we show up for each other, and when something feels off, we talk about it instead of letting it fester. Vanessa moved to Seattle permanently and is engaged to a wonderful man who treats her the way she deserves. We still text regularly, and she's become one of my closest friends. Funny how life works sometimes. The woman who shared my husband's bed became one of the people I trust most in this world. Nathan's mother, Linda, still calls me every Sunday. She says I'm the daughter she always wanted, and Nathan's choices don't change that. She's dating someone new too, a widower she met at her book club. She says she's learned from watching me that it's never too late to start over. As for Nathan, last I heard he's still struggling, still at the smaller company making half what he used to, still alone in that one-bedroom apartment. His friends have mostly moved on. His reputation in the Portland tech scene is destroyed. The consequences of his choices follow him everywhere. And you know what? I don't feel bad about that. I don't wish him harm, but I also don't wish him well. He's just not my concern anymore. He's a chapter in my past, not a character in my present. But before I close out this story, I need to talk to you. Yes, you, the person who's been listening to this entire journey. Where are you right now? Are you in bed, unable to sleep because something in your relationship doesn't feel right? Are you at work, wondering if you're overthinking things? Are you driving home, rehearsing how you're going to confront your partner about something suspicious? Here's what I need you to understand. Your instincts are real. That feeling in your gut, that voice in your head telling you something's wrong, listen to it. I ignored mine for years. Every time Nathan came home late, every time his phone was face down on the table, every time he pulled away when I reached for him, I told myself I was being paranoid. I convinced myself that questioning him made me a bad wife, that trust meant never asking questions. But trust isn't blind. Trust is earned. And when someone is lying to you, your body knows before your mind does. So if you're watching this and something feels off in your relationship, investigate, ask questions, demand honesty. Look at phone records if you need to, check credit card statements, do whatever you need to do to get the truth. Because living with the truth, no matter how painful, is better than living with a lie. And if you discover betrayal, here's what I want you to know. You will survive this. I know it doesn't feel like it right now. I know it feels like your world is ending. I know you can't imagine a life without this person who's been your everything. But I promise you, you will not only survive, you will thrive. The betrayal doesn't define you. It defines them. Their choices say nothing about your worth and everything about their character. You are not stupid for trusting them. You are not naive for believing them. You loved fully and honestly, and that's something to be proud of, not ashamed of. And here's the most important thing. You don't have to forgive them. I know there's a lot of pressure in our culture to forgive, to move on, to be the bigger person, but forgiveness is optional. What's not optional is healing. You can heal without forgetting them. You can move forward without absolving them of what they did. Some people will tell you to think about the good times, to remember why you fell in love, to give them another chance. But here's what I learned. The person you fell in love with doesn't exist. They were a mask. The real person is the one who lied, who cheated, who betrayed your trust. Believe that person, not the fantasy you created. If you decide to leave, and I hope you do, surround yourself with people who support you. Cut out anyone who tries to convince you to stay, who tells you you're overreacting, who suggests you should work it out. Those people don't have your best interests at heart. Document everything. Take screenshots, save emails, keep records. Even if you think you'll never need them, you might. Protect yourself legally and financially. And most importantly, rebuild yourself. Not for revenge, not to show them what they lost, but because you deserve to live a life you're excited about. You deserve to wake up every morning and feel joy instead of dread. You deserve a love that feels safe and honest and real. I'm not going to lie to you. It's hard. There will be days when you miss them so much it physically hurts. There will be moments when you question whether you made the right choice. There will be nights when you're alone and you wonder if you'll ever love again. But those moments pass, and on the other side, freedom, peace, joy, a life that belongs completely to you. So here's what I want you to do right now. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button, not for me, but as a promise to yourself that you're going to trust your instincts. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it, your sister, your best friend, that woman at work who you know is going through something but won't talk about it. Subscribe to this channel because I'm going to keep sharing stories. Stories of survival, of strength, of women and men who refused to settle for less than they deserved. And leave a comment. Tell me where you're from. New York, California, Texas, Florida, Illinois, wherever you are. I want to know. Tell me if you're going through this right now. Tell me if you've survived it. Tell me your story, because we're building a community here, a community of people who refuse to be gaslighted, who trust themselves, who know their worth. You are not alone. You are stronger than you think, and you deserve so much better than flowers meant for someone else. My name is Diana, and this was my story. But more importantly, this is your reminder that your story doesn't end with betrayal. That's just the next chapter begins. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for trusting me with your time and your attention. Stay strong, trust yourself, and remember, the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's building a life so good, so full, so authentically yours that your betrayer becomes nothing more than a footnote in your history. Those flowers destroyed my marriage, but they also gave me back myself, and I wouldn't trade that for anything. Until next time, keep trusting your good.